Hello, everybody. This is Brandon from Galaxy Doc Market, your fearless leader, especially if you're part of my community. Today is April 25th, 2026, Saturday, 8:15 a.m. Eastern Standard Time as I bring you this market analysis for the week ahead. A lot of angst and fear, and we've been consistently saying that the markets are going to continue to climb the wall of worry, and we are exactly in that scenario. As the market makers and some of the traders continue to postulate a total collapse, that it's overbought and we're going to collapse, and the negative geopolitical news flow, as well as this, Iran debacle, not a debacle, but what should I say? On and off, peace, no peace, war, no war. This type of anxiety that is put into the market has put a lot of bearish bias into the markets. And so a lot of the participants still continue to price or trade as if a total collapse of the market is coming. And the market, to the chagrin of a lot of the bears and some of these bulls who might think that the market is overextended, we continue to climb the wall of worry. And we're going to go over some of the, the geopolitical things that are going on. And I want to remind you again after this video, the purpose is to remind everybody that the war in Iran, whether it was in Iran or in Ukraine or anything else that may come forth with China, who knows, with Cuba, all of those are designed to put fear into the general population. The real culprit is that the bankers take you to war. And bankers take you to war when their money system fails and they need to implement a new money system, and there's going to be a lot of friction. And they like to blame that on some form of a disaster event, false flag, or even war or specter of war, and so that you are focused on that fear of nuclear war, fear of economic collapse, while they're changing the monetary system from the fractional reserve banking system to the new digital banking system and currency. And that's what's happening, okay? And we will talk about where we are in the marketplace. And I do believe we have to be on the lookout a potential reversal at these levels. But we are also cognizant and be flexible that the markets will climb the wall of worry, and markets can remain irrational longer than you can remain solvent. Okay, so let's get into this. So, yes, I think we're in the start of a raging bull market. Are there going to be sharp pullbacks? And you see those sharp pullbacks intraday trades, but I don't really like to show what our members or what we do, particularly as a community, but I think I will show one member who's in the Essentials group, who has taken our market signals intraday and really turned a nice profit out of it. Okay, and I will share that simply because a particular trader wants us to share it. Okay, so are we in a raging bull market? Not quite. Or is this a trap? Well, not quite. I mean, it's a little bit of both, isn't it? If you're a bull or a bear, you're scratching your head. It's just intraday, it's so volatile. It is a trader's paradise if you could just get the bias out of your system. Here's a disclaimer. Pause it, read it. If you're not in my community, if you agree, please move forward. And of course, thank you so much for following me at x.com/galaxy.market. Like us and subscribe, and most of all, subscribe on YouTube and comment. All right, so, I like to start off with a lot of newsworthy items. I'm going to keep that to a minimum today. But I would like to share the fact that there is a mixed signal again, right? I mean, what else is new? So about 18 hours ago, China urges its citizens to leave Iran immediately amid rising security threats. And that is because there are 3 carrier groups with massive aircraft and military personnel from the United States, no NATO, United States alone, amassing around a potential Iran U.S. peace conference mediated by what? Pakistan? Yeah, but the show of force is amazing. Israel is threatening that if the ceasefire ends, that they're going to basically attack Iran again. Yet there is hope for peace. And of course, I want to remind everybody, these are all events designed to distract you. What you should be paying attention to is what's being done behind the scenes. For example, President Trump today is going to have a crypto conference on Saturday. Today's Saturday, in Mar-a-Lago. It is going to be a meme coin crypto conference. And those that are invited, I forget, like if you're like top 250 holders of Trump coin, I don't know how that's not a conflict of interest. But, it is a signal that we are entering into the digital currency and banking system era. Okay. But in the meantime, they want you to be scared because China's say, oh my gosh, China is removing all their personnel from Iran, right? Chinese embassy in Tehran is telling nationals to relocate to a safer areas and depart as soon as possible. Yeah, okay. And of course, here Ash Crypto is talking about the issue the same morning on February 27, right before the war started. So, okay, there's that. And then we have breaking 33 minutes ago, Iranian Foreign Minister Abbas Araghi. I mean, who's in charge? I think there's two factions, or maybe more, jostling for power from the power vacuum that's been left from all those leaders that have been killed in the war. Okay. Again, they're ready for negotiations in the United States. Jared Kushner and I forget who the other guy is. They've already left, but they said, we also know that J.D. Vance can fly here if needed. But again, markets are pricing in some sort of a peace deal breakthrough. But what happens if they don't have it, or if it gets canceled altogether? Okay. While it is giga bullish for the markets, it's just nothing is really set in stone. We're getting mixed signals, aren't we? All right. So, but we know that there are three aircraft carriers now operating. We're not saying they're moving there. They're operating together in the Middle East. And that includes the USS Abraham Lincoln, Gerald Ford, and George H.W. Bush. And they're conducting joint operations in the region for the first time. Okay, so is this getting in preparation for the final attack to knock out the infrastructure that Trump is threatening, or is this a peacekeeping mission after Iran gives up its nukes and succumbs to the U.S. demands for a more democratic government system? We'll see. I know that I think it's very clear. I don't know anything, but I think for me, I think it's very clear that there are multiple factions. Old guard, Revolutionary Guard, and the old remnants of the Ayatollah regime are trying to hold on to power. But I think the people have had enough of it, and more moderate politicians and leaders are probably looking for a peace deal. And the longer they keep their oil wells shut down, the more irreparable damage. You can't just shut down oil wells. Once you shut down after a given period of time, that well becomes either useless or very limited in its maximum capacity to extract oil. And I think Iran knows that, and I think Trump knows that, and that's his trump card at this point. And oil is Iran's lifeblood. Okay, so is this peacekeeping mission, or are they going to attack? Maybe a little bit of both. So, but you know what? All of this is a distraction. This is Janet Yellen laughing her ass off. All right? Bankers take you to war, folks. It's just plain and simple. They don't want you to look over here. They want you to look over there in the Middle East while, other things are happening. The sources are saying that President Trump's administration wants to bring back firing squads. Why would they do that? I'm not going to get into it, but think about that. Okay? So, instilling fear in the crypto markets. Cryptos have been suppressed, but I would watch as a signal what's happening today's Saturday, in Mar-a-Lago with President Trump as he's holding a crypto conference, a meme crypto conference. And watch carefully. It might be a nothing burger. But we do know that a new monetary system is coming in. XRP is at $1.34 right now. It's at $1.42. And, money system changes happening, and XRP will run the rails. and cross-border payments and tokenization of assets. The whole 9 yards, providing on-demand liquidity as the banking system, as they transition into digital system, there will be a lot of friction and there will be a lot of chaos, probably. And you don't want to be these guys lined up when XRP is $1,000 or higher. I'm not saying that it'll get there today or tomorrow. Well, I hope, I wish. It's not going to happen that fast. But this is the ultimate target, folks. At least $1,000. So in the coming weeks, again, markets are extended. It is due for a pullback, but you know what? Markets can remain irrational a lot longer than you can remain solvent, and markets are forward looking and it likes to climb the wall of worry. And so let me show you why that is. So chart analysis, and I'll show you exactly what we mean. Here's a McClellan summation index, folks, and this is our early warning system, so to speak. So we nailed the bottom of the market. If you go back about 3 weeks ago, maybe now actually going on 4, we pretty much nailed the bottom of the absolute fear. We also said on this little rally that we're going to hit this trend line, and go check my work. It's all on YouTube if you're not part of my community. And we rode this thing down, and now we are basically riding this wave up. We're into this new zone, and we crossed over this 200-day moving average, and now we're beginning to see this. If you can see it on the video, it's a red. It's basically beginning to tip over, and we're beginning to stall out a little bit, and we got to pay attention. I'm not saying it's going to collapse on Monday. It might, and then maybe get a stick save again. But here's the MACD histogram coming down, and we're still in the negative territory on the MACD. I think we just crossed over, beginning to cross over into the positive territory, right into this area. But you got to watch this McClellan summation index. It is warning short-term volatility is going to return. I mean, the implied volatility is absolutely killed because the market keeps having these whipsaws in the middle of the day, and then it just moves higher. Okay, and we'll talk about what happened on Friday. One of our traders. All right, let's look at SPY. Okay, and we talked about this, and I said, hey, look, if we get over this overhead resistance downtrend line, we're in an uptrend. We're beginning to hit the top end of the Bollinger Band. There's nothing bearish about this, except we got to watch the McClellan summation index and see how the dealers are positioning their gamma exposure. You can really see a lot of times, okay, you can get faked out a little bit. It's not end all be all. It's not the gospel, but the understanding gamma exposure, understanding net gamma flows, and all of these things are very, very tantamount to understanding what the big boys are doing, because after all, they control the markets. And in this market system, the big boys know ahead of time. It's one of the most manipulated markets in history. Okay, so SPY just created this bullish MACD cross. Okay, we're beginning to get a positive histogram right here. Let me just move down. Okay, here's the thing though, CCI at its extremes, and we're beginning to hit that, is contrarian. So it's absolute bullishness, and then every time we hit these, it doesn't mean that we can't just move sideways, because we really have, but it does mean that we have to be on the lookout for a pullback in the commodity channel index, and that's something that I use it for. And then, of course, we have the stochastics. This absolutely nailed this rally that's coming, but now we're in the overbought territory with a negative divergence. Okay, so here's the PPO ADX. There's, again, nothing bearish about this setup right now. However, what if we're doing something like this? Here's a bullish setup, right? We saw this, right? But now are we turning over and doing this? So if we're making this type of situation right here, okay, that's bearish, and we got to keep an eye on that area. Okay, so, and then of course we have basically a accumulation distribution. We're bouncing back from this decline, and then so we want to see if are there going to be one more pullback before we move higher. Okay, it's very important that we do. Okay, so let's look at silver. Very bullish on silver, lots of manipulation. We're again up above 80 MA, but down below we're just chopping sideways. But I believe there's still positive divergences. I think we're moving higher. Once it moves higher, it's going to take out the previous $121 level. Bank of America thinks we're going to hit about 305 by the end of the year. I think we hit that number and then some by the end of June. Okay. And gold is the same thing. Gold, behaving just like silver. We're right back below the 80 MA, but moving sideways. Okay, this is bullish. We bottomed, folks. Okay, we can chop around and then move higher. Okay, that's all that is. Okay, get them while nobody wants them. Everybody's forgotten about gold and silver, but you know what? It's still elevated. The discrepancy between COMEX pricing, which is, we know, completely manipulated and rigged. Okay, COMEX is running out of silver and gold in their vaults. Okay, that's all you need to know. But this is a bullish reversal pattern. We might chop around here a little bit. We're moving higher. Look at all that space. Let's talk about MicroStrategy, because if there is going to be a recovery in the cryptos, and usually it's the stock market that leads the way first, and then Bitcoin, and then followed by not meme coins, but alternative coins. MicroStrategy is the largest holder of Bitcoin. And I've been saying I've been very bearish from up here all the way down, but now I've turned bullish. We have call positions on this. We just got to get over this pivot level and this downtrending line, and I think it's going to take a gap up to get above here. But once it runs, I think we're going straight up into that 500 level. Not today, not tomorrow, maybe not next week, but we're definitely going to move higher next week. Avagio. Very bullish on this one. Our group is holding calls on this situation. We basically found support right here, and Nvidia hit all-time highs, and Avagio or Broadcom is going to start taking out this 460 next week. We're denoted by that arrow. Everything is bullish. Everything is saying that there's a big move coming. And then, of course, MACD's histogram is bullish as heck. We are a little bit in the, exuberant phase on the commodity channel index. We still have a little bit higher to go. I mean, we've gone as high as here. And I think we're going to move. Maybe we chop around a little bit next week, and then we hit that. Now, once we get to these extreme levels, we have to be looking for a pullback. And the pullbacks are going to be sharp, folks. And so, just be careful. Stochastic in the overbought territory. We're just going to come into that area. Here's the thing. The PPO ADX told you we were going to be bullish. This is a bullish pattern, okay? Anything that has that, has this, are bullish. Anything that looks like this are bearish, okay? And we broke above. We had a little bit of a sell-off. Okay, we continue to have negative accumulation, but we got to watch this. We are in that recovery phase, okay? Tesla. I'm still bullish on it. We just had an inside week. Elon opened his big mouth, although I don't think, if you think about it, Elon getting into chip fabrication business and, and capital expenditures to get into robotics and AI is not such a bad thing. And I think the markets are going to figure that out. I knew that we needed to get over this 20 SMA. And once we do, and I think next week it happens, we're going to shoot right up into the 500 level. Maybe I'll shoot all the way into that 500 to maybe 520 level in the ensuing weeks. Okay. We have a potential MACD crossover that's happening down here. Let me just bring that up. Okay, we have positive divergences forming. We broke out from this negative area on the CCI. We're just going to bide our time. I do believe, apart from the fact that, if a market's going to pull back, it's going to be very short-lived. I mean, I don't think Trump is going to let this market go down. PPO ADX is bullish, and so that's what we have. Intuitive Surgical, okay, reported blowout earnings, okay, and then we basically popped out and really didn't do much, but usually Intuitive Surgical moves the second week. We're going to go over to this 100-day moving average. I know that it looks like we're forming a death cross, but I believe we're moving higher on Intuitive Surgical. I like that stock, and something that we're keeping an eye on. And then, of course, Google's put in $40 billion to Anthropic, and we've been long this name. We're still bullish on this name. Our long-term portfolio group has this. I believe we're going to move higher. So this is something we're looking at for next week. MACD is about to cross over higher. Everything looks bullish, but I do believe that we are going to get a little bit of a pullback, not long term. I think by the time Friday comes, I think we're going to have some sharp swings in prices. Okay, now we'll talk about that right now. Here's how we are positioned, and this is something that we use on quant data, and I want you to focus on this side of the road. And so one thing that I want to show is on Friday around 10:05 a.m. We saw a large gamma exposure, and we thought this was going to be the MVC, and this is literally where the price was right near. This is SPY, by the way, right near this 709.10 level. But we did also notice these gamma exposure, positive gamma exposure right into that 715, 714 level, which consequently we finished around what? Let's look. Let me bring this over. We finished right at 714.01, 714.47, pulled back a little bit, and that's okay. Okay. And so that's what happened. But as the day progressed, and of course it's weekly options expiration, let me move the time frame over, and you can continue to see the development as we go from this MVC being at 710, we start slowly drifting over into the 712, 713. Of course, we didn't quite hit the 715, but we saw these stacks growing, and as the day wore on. And then we get to about 1:40 p.m. and all of a sudden we have this. So it's very important to let the markets develop, especially on Friday, to wait until after about noon when traders come back from their lunchtime, right, around 1:30ish. And now we had NVC forming a 713 followed by 714. Okay, and so much so that, and then everything got pinned, and then we had this action. So now everybody's jumping in because of this bullish action. But when you look into the 27th, which is on Monday, okay, gamma exposure signature changes quite rapidly once again. And so this is where the market closed, obviously. This blue dotted line. Again, we have positioning right on SPY, where we position 712. Okay, so is there going to be a little bit of pullback this time? Something in Iran not going to go right, but I do believe that there is a possibility because we did that on Thursday, and we'll bring up some of the trade. One of our traders did. Just give me a second here. Now I'm not even sure what platform he is actually using here, but by using gamma, you can nail these trades. And this was like an hour and a half long trade where he got on April 23rd, which was Thursday, like I talked about. As the market was ripping higher, he got into around 10 a.m. We're not going to go over the gamma exposure, but this is to highlight it. 705 puts, as everybody was like just crazy bullish, at 99 cents, and then turned around in about an hour and a half, sold the same 705 put same day at 456. Now our group is doing this day in and day out. And but normally I don't share what we're doing because that's not what we're all about. I want you to, if you think about joining our group, I want you to join because of these market insights and commentary and analysis that we do. And obviously we're a vibrant community, okay, that helps one another, and we're very, very excited about that. So as we come back, I'm sorry, had a look at the net drift, and we can go back actually if it'll let me. Not May, but let's go back to. Can't go back to Thursday. So on May 1st, that's this Friday expiration. As we're super bullish, just pay attention to the fact that we had a net drift of the put premium rising below that. So this is kind of foretelling you the way we closed is not at all that bullish. It's something that we need to pay attention to. So let's look at Monday's net drift. Okay, and this is the kind of analysis that we do. Now, the Monday's net drift right now is carrying over from Friday, a little bit positive. We're looking for this type of a crossover, and that really is an early warning system. And then of course the interval map. The issue though is on Monday we have a lot of these intervals forming. This blue line is the price, and we have a lot of movement on the SPY, and we're looking at SPY all the way down to 605. This area kind of acts as like a magnet, and so this is now turning red. And that, obviously is where the puts are being concentrated, but below, and, these are kind of warning that, the Iran deal that market's pricing in is not all that great. And then, of course, we look at the volatility drift, and of course, what we've been bullish. We're hitting all-time highs, so this IV is coming down, and the gamma concentrations are also coming down. So that's kind of a recipe for a kind of a sharp price reversal, and coupled with our McClellan summation index. Okay, now let's look at this situation. We know that ES hit 7,200. I've been saying to our group that we were going to hit that. I thought we would get into 7,230, potentially overshoot. But we just never made it. I mean, everything is at all-time highs as we have all these economic issues and banking issues and everything else. But like I said, you got to follow where the money's going, or you're going to get just absolutely killed. Of course, gold and silver is moving sideways. Okay. Watch the dollar. I think dollar, it's a race to zero. I mean, dollar is going to devaluation of currency basically means each country's interest is to basically hyperinflate their currency, get as much asset as they can, and declare bankruptcy. That's what the United States is doing. That's what Trump is doing. 10-year yield moving higher, folks. Okay, it's putting a lot of stress into the banking system, and that's the problem. That's the canary in the coal mine that you need to pay attention to. Okay, oil. Yeah, we hit 78, and then of course the tension. This is also telling you to look at the Middle East. This oil at 94 from 78 is telling you that it's not all safe right now. Okay, VIX smashed to smithereens. I think we go a little bit, chop around here. We could go a little bit lower, but I think we start to move a little bit higher as the market starts to correct a little bit. I mean, it does need to pull back, but it doesn't mean it can't keep going up. But we are cognizant of that. And we do believe the markets are set up for a little bit of a pullback on Monday again. Does it get rescued? Probably. But we'll look at that and we'll play it as it happens. So that's it. Enough of that. Great reset is coming. We know that's the real thing that they don't want you to pay attention to until it's too late. Okay, so the reset, monetary reset's coming. We're climbing the wall of worry. We hit 7,200 on ES. That's kind of our end target. And then 715-ish on the SPY. Can we go a little bit higher? Maybe. But I think on Monday, it's kind of set up to basically suck in the bulls. And, this market just breaks the heart of both bulls and bears. So be able to not only capture, we're bullish. But we do know that a short-term pullbacks, intraday or otherwise, we're ready to take on that. Okay, another breakdown in Iran negotiations. If that happens, that's the excuse for a brief pullback, let some air out of the markets, and then resume moving higher. Monetary system reset is happening. War is just a distraction. I forget who posted on X, and I said he was wondering how can this market keep going higher, and he was in disbelief. And I said, well, that's it's called hyperinflation. When you print money to oblivion, it has to go somewhere, and the stock market is one of the areas that it gets hyperinflated into. Okay, and you can suppress gold, silver, and oil and all that stuff right now, but that's artificial. Okay, so we want to watch the new money system is being implemented. All eyes on Iran again. Watch the 3-carrier strike force buildup. Is it peacekeeping or a new strike that they're preparing for? It could be both. Silver, gold, watch carefully. Crypto's moving higher. Got XRP. Markets climbing the wall of worry. We're watching Avaggio, ISRG, Tesla, and MicroStrategy. Gold, silver, of course, and XRP. And Bitcoin. Stocks at critical levels. Okay, we finished bullish on Friday for once instead of having this, oh my God, world's going to come in. And then everyone thinks, in the past, we're going to have this Black Monday. Now everybody's super bullish. We're hitting all-time highs. Is at the time, that's the time when we're going to pull back. Our gamma analysis shows that. It might happen. So we'll see. We're climbing the wall of worry, folks. All right, so thank you for listening, and follow me at Galaxy.Market. Like us, share us, and above all, comment good and bad, and subscribe on YouTube. If you want to work with me, you got to basically email me at coachbrandon@protonmail.com. If you want to join our Essentials group, it's kind of autonomous. You get your watch list, we get your market commentaries, chart analysis, all that fun stuff. And you just don't get the guidance like our elite group does. But it's $49 a month. It's worth joining. We have some great traders in there. And so click on the link in the description or the profile on x.com. Otherwise, be careful out there. It's a treacherous market, but if you know how to follow the money, then you'll do fine. Okay, bye-bye.